We are talking today about activating your superpoderes, navigating challenging times. And we may find that I'm going to make sure that we're sharing my tab here. We may find that as we go through life, there are different chapters with greater intensity. I think right now, a lot of us are experiencing a chapter of great intensity. And it is more important than ever to really shore up our superpoderes and make sure that we can show up as our best selves so that we're better able to navigate those challenges. So, I'm going to go ahead and go over our goals for this session. So, in this session, I would love for you to be able to reconnect with your inner superhéroe, to identify your inner supervillains, and to discover the core mental muscles needed to thrive in challenging situations, and even maintain peak effectiveness while we do. So, when we're experiencing these periods of extreme external chaos, it's even more important for us to be as rooted and grounded as we possibly can be, as mentally and emotionally resourced as we can be to better navigate whatever comes our way. So, maintaining that peak effectiveness comes from this. Quick introduction. I am Elisa Burgos Ojeda, your guide on the side. I am an Association for Talent Development Master Trainer. I have over 15 years of experience in learning and development, and I facilitate leadership development for globally distributed leaders across the world, across different industries, every day in my work as an online course facilitator for eCornell, which is Cornell University's online learning unit. So, lots of leaders with lots of lived experiences, always enriching the conversation. And it's just such a pleasure and an honor to get to do. And I also combine brain based, movement based, and practical strategies to optimize performance for leaders and their teams in my own organization, Getting Resourced. So excited to delve into this conversation with you today. And if I were to reconnect with my own inner superhéroe, I'll give you a sneak peek of what comes to mind. I'll give you a guess at which one of these kids is me. Back a long, long time ago in a galaxy not so far away. You got it, Tomas. Spider Girl. That would be me. Yeah. So this picture came up recently, and when I found it, I thought, oh my gosh, that says so much. So let's talk about what it says. What are some of the characteristics that this image embodies of this little girl climbing up the gate? This is my grandmother's house in Puerto Rico when I was a little girl. So some of the things that came to mind for me when I looked at it were, yeah, thanks for sharing, Ingrid. Fearless, adventurous. I love that. Jessica says brave. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, Guadalupe, her eye contact with the camera shows confidence and connection. Well, thank you. Yeah. I felt the fearlessness when I saw it. And it was really lovely to get to connect with that part of myself, that that fearlessness, that love of adventure, thinking outside the box, right? I could go straight, but I'm going to go up instead and see what happens. So thinking through some of those characteristics that make up this inner little superhero in training, I realized that in my own life journey, some of the biggest accomplishments, some of the things that I'm proudest of, some of the things that have gotten me through my biggest challenges and struggles have been these characteristics from this little girl. This is my inner superhero. And over time, I might have lost touch with her sometimes. But every time we get to reconnect, I have access to those superpowers, those characteristics that define her, who she is uniquely, how she sees the world, and what are the strengths that I can leverage. So this is actually me, as was brought up to me recently in a superhero pose. This is my first day going to work at Cornell University as an instructional designer after many interesting um, experiences that started with Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. I was there. I'd been working at a small business for many years, really pushing to make it grow, and we just couldn't survive Hurricane Maria. So I had to reinvent myself, redefine myself. And when I look back on it, I realize it's those qualities from that inner superhero, that little girl that's Spider-Manning her way up the gate at my grandmother's place. Um, that's what actually got me prepared to navigate the crisis that I was in and to find my way through and really lean into my best self. So I'd love for us to take a moment to really think about what that might look like for you. So, how might you tap into your own inner superhéroe, your inner superhero? That might be something that draws on the roots of some of those examples of superheroes that you mentioned, like Guadalupe or Mama Coco. There might be some root there that enriches and informs and enhances your inner superhero, your superhéroe. But I'd like to invite us to do just a quick little contemplation. So if you'd like, maybe just settle more comfortably into your seat, wherever you're at. Maybe just kind of a little shrug of the shoulders, a little roll of the neck, just to kind of see what might feel comfortable to you to settle into the body. And then I would invite you to maybe consider just maybe closing the eyes or softening the gaze and connecting to the weight of your body in your seat. Just seeing what that feels like. And then maybe focusing a little bit on the breath. So as you inhale, filling the chest or the belly. As you exhale, emptying the chest or the belly. Really experiencing what that feels like. Maybe the temperature of the air as it comes in through the nostrils and back out again. Just taking that moment to tune in to the here and now. You might want to take the fingers of one hand and just gently run them over the fingers and palm of the other hand. And just see what that feels like. Just explore all of that sensation of touch. So there's the texture of the skin, the knuckles. What does that feel like? All of the calluses, all of that sensation, really focusing on that. See how fully present you can be in that moment as you explore this resource that's with you all the time, every day. And just seeing how much you can tune into this. And we tune into one thing so that we don't tune into all of the things. So just for a moment. And when you're ready, you might want to set your hands down and think back to that inner superhéroe, that inner superhero. And it might be a little version of you from when you were small, or it might be when you were bigger, maybe a challenge that you faced. See if you can connect with that inner superhéroe. What are they like? What are some of the qualities that define them? When you think of them, what are some words that come to mind that describe them, their energy, their approach, their perspective? And see if you can explore what those qualities are. And you might want to give your inner superhéroe a high five or a hug or a thank you. You come back here and know that that inner superhéroe is always there for you. That those qualities are in you, they're part of you, and you can reconnect with them anytime you want to. So maybe just taking a breath, and you might open your eyes if you haven't done so already. Thank your inner superhéroe for saying hello. And I would love it if you would share in the chat what came up for you. What are some of the qualities that defined your inner superhéroe? Ah, fearless, Oscar. I love that. Guadalupe. Ah, silly, curious, critical thinker, confident, generous, and empathetic. I love that. Oscar, creative beyond belief. That is wonderful. That is a powerful inner superhéroe. Confident queen, Jessica. I love that. If anything else came up for you, we'd love to hear it as we think about reconnecting with our inner superhéroe. And again, as you connected with your inner superhéroe, were there any qualities that connected to the other superhéroes in your life? So maybe from your family, maybe from fictional characters that inspired you. Tomas on a healing journey. So right now I'm healing my inner child. And my inner child loves laughter, curiosity, researching, empathy, and community. Those are amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Tomas. That's wonderful. All right. So let me go back here to my screen. Oh, Ingrid, creative, daring, bold, silly, curious. I love that. That's wonderful. Ah, Dr. Alba, resourceful. I love that. Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes sometimes our inner superhéroe might be from that early childhood. It might be later on in life, but it's those qualities that have seen us through our biggest challenges and crises. And I think that when you're pointing to resourcefulness, that really speaks to that as well. So thank you, Dr. Alba. All right. So thank you for sharing some of your inner superhéroes qualities. Oh, Carolina, love, knowledge, help yourself before loving, knowing, helping others. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. So there's an element of self care there as well. That's beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing that, everybody. So, why don't we function from our inner superhéroe all of the time? What might be getting in our way that is stopping us from functioning from that place of the confident queen, the creative beyond belief? Ah, capitalism. We're going for structural issues. Yes. Thank you, Oscar. Absolutely. So, we are facing a lot of challenges right now, external challenges. So, yeah, Adrian, the mortgage. Yes, absolutely. So, as we think through how we might engage with and leverage our superhéroe and their superpowers, when we do, we're better able to navigate whatever challenges come our way, including capitalism, including the mortgage. Yes, Oscar, I absolutely hear you. It's expensive and it's killing your vibe. Yes, absolutely. So, if we're running on low, on fumes, on empty, and we're facing these massive external chaos and disruption that we are facing right now, we're even less equipped to navigate it. And when we look to those superheroes that we admire, such as Mama Coco, that Guadalupe shared, those are the those are the stories. That is the connection that can inform how we navigate the current challenges that we're facing as a community and in the world at large. So we don't function from our inner superhéroe all of the time because, like any superhéroe, we have nemesis. Some of those are external, and we don't have as much control over those. And whatever level of control we do have over those, it is very difficult to even perceive when we're in a dysregulated, overwhelmed state, which of course is a normal thing to happen when we're existing in this current landscape. So we think about inner supervillains that are getting in our way, that are sapping our resources or just tripping us up from accessing that inner superhéroe. What are some of those inner supervillains that you could think that might get in your way? For me, when I looked back at my inner superhéroe fearlessly climbing up the gate of my grandma's house, I realized that some of that fearlessness got smothered by self doubt. So I wasn't able to access it anymore. It was still there, it was still in me, it was part of me, but I wasn't able to access it. So that self doubt became a supervillain getting in the way of my superhéroe coming back out in her superhero pose. So, what are some examples you might think of inner supervillains that might be getting in your way of leveraging those superpowers, those inner superpowers of resourcefulness, of loving and knowing and helping ourselves, of creativity and daring and being bold or silly or curious or confident, loving laughter and curiosity and research and empathy and community, the curiosity, the critical thinking, the confidence, the generosity, the empathy. Anything you can think of that might be getting in the way. And I hope you'll bear with me as Ring seems to be cutting in and out of my presentation here. Ingrid, imposter syndrome, fear, self-deprecation, absolutely. Jessica, self-doubt. Tomas, past childhood trauma, underrepresentation of people of color in these spaces, current political climate, imposter syndrome. Absolutely. So we've got a big mix of external factors and internal factors. Depression, the villain in Thunderbolts was so relatable. Yeah, self-doubt. Mm-hmm. Unlearning toxic traits from childhood that get normalized. Absolutely, Guadalupe. Weighing risks, Adrian. Yeah. Sophia, it feels like the superhero is just not accessible inside anymore. Oh my gosh, I hear you. Absolutely. Decision fatigue. Yeah, Oscar. That's a big one. Rafael, fear of being judged by others, seeing setbacks as threats and not as challenges or opportunities to thrive. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for your honesty and vulnerability in sharing some of these really big challenges, both the external challenges that we face at the practical level, at the systemic level, in the current landscape that we're in, and also some of the internal challenges, some of them that we've been carrying with us for a long time. So definitely getting in the way of our inner superhéroe. So let's think of a way of conceptualizing these inner supervillains. And I wanted to introduce you to one of the masterminds of our array of inner supervillains. This is the judge. And we all carry the judge inside of us. And this is the part of us that is always judging, to your point, Rafael, either fear of being judged by others or us judging. So the judge is going to judge you. It's going to judge other people, and it's going to judge your circumstances. And that's all it does. All of these supervillains that our inner superhero is threatened by or hampered by come from a place of fear and from a place of trying to keep us safe and protected. So as we look to go back to that superhero that's no longer accessible to us, it doesn't feel accessible to us anymore. Some of what's getting in the way of that are these protective mechanisms that have overstayed their welcome. Now we're overusing what could have been strengths, and they're actively getting in our way. So you might share in the chat some of the ways that the judge can show up for you. How have you seen it show up in the past? I know for me, whenever I'm working on a new presentation, a new course, a new training, there's always an element of the judge looking at my work and judging my work and thinking, that's not quite good enough. That's not really going to do the job. That's not going to be up to the standard that's necessary. You need to fix it. You need to change it. You need to adapt it. You need to improve it. You need to grow it. So that can be one way that the judge edits my work so much that I don't get as much work out as I would like to. And my inner superhéroe is stifled by that. She can't express her fearlessness, her joy, her love of adventure, her creativity because she's being judged. So, Sebastian, seeing change is negative or with a limited mindset? Absolutely. Yeah. That's definitely one way that the judge can show up. For sure. Well, Scott, I've been interviewing for engineering positions and I feel judged when I don't use technical terminology because I like being silly or forget. Yeah. Yeah. So we're afraid we're being judged when we're trying to tap into our authenticity. Thank you for sharing that. Any other ways you can think of that you might experience the judge showing up for you? Oh, I love that you're getting some support there as well. Ingrid, judge from being from a non-traditional role, English being my second language. Yeah, absolutely. Esa cosa is not very technical. It's not very technical, but it is accessible. And that's definitely a trade-off, right? Okay. So those are some ways we might see the judge showing up, judging ourselves, judging other people, judging circumstances. And there are some other collaborators, there are some hench people of the judge that are also supervillains that might get in our way and stifle our inner superhero's ability to shine. So these are, again, protective mechanisms, and they're sort of broadly defined between motivation and style, right? So they're trying to get us to independence, acceptance, security. They're trying to either avoid or earn or assert to get to where they want to be. So they might look like, and oh, thank you, Sandong. So I've always be judged not talking much. Yeah, that can definitely happen. Thank you for sharing that. So some of the other ways in which our inner supervillains might manifest at different times in our life, we might feel like different ones show up more than others, but they can be called the controller, the hyperachiever, restless, the stickler, the pleaser, hypervigilant, the avoider, the victim, and hyperrational. These are all different ways in which our inner mechanisms designed to protect us that now we've outgrown and are now actively getting in our way might show up and defeat our inner superhéroe from really expressing their greatest gifts, really accessing our greatest gifts and our ability to navigate the challenges that are before us from a place of inner wisdom, from a place of the vision to see the best alternative available, even if all of the alternatives seem awful, and sometimes they are. But to navigate that from a grounded place, to be able to choose from among them or create something new, that requires tapping into those resources that are within us and that we're having trouble accessing. So these are some of the names that we might give to these characters, these inner saboteurs, these supervillains. Do any of those sound familiar to you if you think of it in those terms? So controller, hyperachiever, restless, stickler, pleaser, hypervigilant. avoider, victim, or hyper rational. I know for me, stickler is a big one, which is related to what I was sharing before of like, it's never quite perfect enough to go out there. And for me, restless is a big one too. So all of the things. So focusing on one thing rather than all of the things is an ongoing journey. Oh, yeah. Tomas, all of the above. Yeah. Oscar, hyperachiever, and vigilant and avoidant are ringing a bell. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Let's see, Guadalupe, hyperachiever. I am who I say I am. Am I good enough to be seen as a software developer? Absolutely. Yes. I would offer that you are. And I can understand that it is challenging and these get in our way of accessing that inner knowing. So, yeah, absolutely. Making progress on them one day at a time. That's beautiful, Tomas. Let's see. Sophia, yep, your therapist might say hyper rational. Sure. Any one of these might show up to us. And what's interesting is, again, they are protective mechanisms. These are ways of protecting ourselves, of keeping ourselves safe. So if my stickler is so in control that my work never goes out into the world because it's never good enough, it will never be rejected by anybody because nobody will ever see it. So the stickler's kept me safe, right? At least that's what it's attempting to do. But in doing so, it's really squashing the ability of my inner superhéroe to express herself fully and to tap into the things that make her wonderful and special and unique and different, and the things that make me most able to survive and to thrive. Yeah, Oscar, it protects your ego. Absolutely. That's definitely one of the functions. So, yeah. So, thank you for sharing that. Now, how might these supervillains, this cast of characters, how might they affect us in the workplace? What are your thoughts? So if I'm caught up in any one of these, or sometimes multiple ones of these, that are stifling my inner superhéroe, how might that affect my work, my ability to show up? And some of you have already been sharing some of that in the chat because it's inhibiting the ability to show up fully in the roles that you're looking for. What are some other ways that you might find that this might affect us? Yes, Oscar, that's a huge one. Freezing up and fearing to advocate for ourselves. Yeah. Anyone else have any thoughts on how this might affect us in the workplace? Guadalupe prevents us from being authentic and be more of a performance of people pleasing. Yes, absolutely. So we have to mask, we have to assimilate, we have to conform. That's what the judge says. That's what the saboteurs say. And then we're not able to tap into the best of us because we're not being whole. Tomas feeling out of place. Oscar, burnout from over pleasing. Absolutely. Yeah. 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 Assimilation. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think, again, they're protective mechanisms. They're designed to protect us from either concrete, actual situations that we're facing or situations that we faced in the past and we are no longer actively facing them. So now this is no longer serving us, but it thinks it is, right? The saboteur thinks it's protecting us with this super villain. So kind of like in the Wizard of Oz, pay attention to the man behind the curtain. Behind the curtain of every super villain is just us trying to stay safe, right? Trying to protect ourselves. So definitely, I'm seeing some agreement on some of the things that have been shared here. These are some of the ways that these saboteurs might affect us in the workplace. And I think advocating for ourselves is such a big one because it hits on a lot of the themes we've been talking about today. One of them being there are systemic issues in place that make it unsafe to advocate for ourselves. There are barriers in the workplace, in the communities that we're in, that prevent it being safe to show up as our full authentic selves and still be able to survive, let alone thrive. So there are definitely very real external situations that are preventing us from really letting our superheroes be activated. But when we combine it with these mechanisms, now it's really, really challenging to be able to navigate those different situations from that wisdom, that inner wisdom, that perspective, to see what even the options might be. So as we think about how this might show up in the workplace, these can definitely hold us back from contributing in the way that we might otherwise do if we don't feel like it's safe to show up as our full selves, if we don't feel that it's safe to advocate for ourselves. Oscar, wanting to be efficient is seen as laziness if it's done by certain communities. Yes, there are definitely a lot of huge systemic issues at play here for sure. I think there's a larger conversation to be had about that, because some of it is going to be how it's received. Some of it is thinking about what are ways we might navigate those specific systemic barriers with better odds. It's never going to be a perfect solution, but what are even the options available to us? It's hard to see. So absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. Maya, to fix our humor, example, showing up sad, extremely serious, making us not approachable at work. Yeah, it can definitely affect our humor and the way that we show up. So yeah, it can influence our ability to show up, and it can influence our ability to work at our best, to do our best work. It can also interact with other people's supervillains or saboteurs. So, for example, if I'm in the midst of being hijacked by my stickler, and you're in the midst of being hijacked by one of your saboteurs, maybe, I don't know, maybe the controller. Now we can sort of set each other off, right? So it can actually escalate. So I've triggered yours, you're triggering mine, and we're not even being our best selves. It's just getting more and more and more of an effective negative emotional contagion that makes it extremely difficult to communicate or to get anything done or to have any sort of harmony or effectiveness in the workplace, right? Because it's this ever escalating dynamic, right? So that can certainly happen. These can compound, they can bump up against each other, and that can have a real effect. And is it productive for us to be operating in this way, hampered by these super villains? Is it effective to be operating in this way? And what happens when there are even more people involved in the dynamic? So now we can have a whole cast of characters showing up, and nobody is in their best self. Nobody's in touch with their inner wisdom. Nobody's accessing their perception, their empathy, their humor. Yes, Ingrid, a toxic workplace, absolutely. Everybody's got out of control saboteurs wreaking havoc. Everyone's hijacked by their supervillains. No one's acting as their best self. No one has access to the best of themselves. And now it just amplifies. So we get this chaos. So, yeah, absolutely. Toxic workplace. So, to quote El Chapulín Colorado, ¿y ahora quién podrá ayudarme? What are some potential solutions for this cascade of effect from these inner supervillains? If you would share some ideas in the chat, maybe things that have worked for you in the past. If you see someone is not being their best self right now, or if you're feeling like you're not being your best self right now and you want to get back in touch with that, what are some things that might be helpful? It's a tough one. Ingrid, breathing, relaxing, stepping outside if you can for a bit to ground yourself. Those are wonderful strategies. Yeah, absolutely. Oscar, brain dumping in a journal. Yeah, that's a great one. I love that. Yeah. See, Tomas, spaces like these, engaging and being part of communities, associations, groups that want to empower you. And yes, journaling is amazing. That's wonderful. Yeah, these are all great. Thank you for sharing these. Yeah. So these are some ways we might be able to quiet those saboteurs and then activate our inner superhéroe so that we can access their superpoderes. And in this particular methodology that I want to share with you today, there are three core mental muscles that allow us to do that. So there's the supervillain interceptor, there's that inner wisdom or the inner sage, and there's self command, which I have missed the D on. So there's a foundation of research for this that combines neuroscience, cognitive behavioral psychology, positive psychology, performance science. It puts it all together and it comes up with this positive intelligence. And as a lifelong learning and development fan, I love brains. So I get really excited about the possibilities that this approach has. So when we're able to leverage this to our benefit, we're able to get rid of those mechanisms that are no longer serving us and open ourselves up to other options, what other options might be available to us to choose from. So that way, we're able to navigate challenges, big challenges, small challenges, medium challenges, larger systemic challenges, organizational challenges. We're able to navigate them from the best of ourselves rather than through our inner supervillains or inner saboteurs. And I find that to be really exciting because there's a lot of stuff that I cannot control right now. The things that I can control are right here. This is where it starts. If I can control this more effectively, I am able to better see the solutions so that I can navigate the challenges that I'm facing externally, which are significant right now. They're particularly significant right now. And I know that there's a lot of grief, of heartache, of fear, of pain, of loss, of anger, of rage, like all of the things for good reason. And when we're in that state, it is very challenging to get through, to access what would help us to most effectively get through. So that's why finding these strategies, whatever works for you at this moment in time, is more critical than ever. And that's why I wanted to share this conversation with you today. So, when we think about how we might apply these core mental muscles to navigate these saboteurs, these inner supervillains, it's basically these three steps of intercepting that inner supervillain or saboteur. And we can do that in these little tiny breaks, even a 10-second break, like the ones that you were describing, Ingrid. So breathing, stepping outside, grounding, like the contemplation that we did a little while ago when we were invited to focus on a physical sensation and then focus within. That was very quick, but it can help. It can be a grounding practice. And the more we do it, the better we are at it. So the same way that we would go to the gym to exercise our physical muscles, this is a way to exercise our mental muscles. And it's really, really, really important to be very agile in this moment in time. We want our mental muscles to be as peak as they can possibly be because we need them for ourselves and for our community. Oscar, reframing helps a lot too. I'm just a quantum particle existing in infinite states, and I have to believe there's one out there that is thriving, and tap into that one. That's beautiful. Yeah. Okay, so we want to find some way to intercept that hijacking of the inner supervillain, the inner saboteur. My stickler is taken over. I can no longer get anything done because nothing's ever going to be good enough. How do I intercept it? I detect it, I catch it, I intercept it. And these reps can be helpful for that. Then reconnecting with that inner wisdom, that inner sage that we all carry. And that actually lives in a region of the brain that's associated with positive emotions, with peace and calm, with clear headed focus, with creativity, with being able to see the big picture. So these are all really valuable problem solving skills. When we're in overwhelm, when we're in fight, flight, or freeze, we can't access those. So to your point from earlier, I think it was Sophia, that we feel like we can't access that inner superhéroe anymore. They're so bogged down. But when we can, this is what it can bring us. And so our ability to make better choices for ourselves and for our community is going to work more effectively if we're able to tap into this part of ourselves, our inner wisdom. And then we activate our self-leadership or our self-command by leveraging those sage powers. And we'll go into those in a moment. But that's what we're looking to do. We want to intercept. We want to intercept the saboteur. We want to reconnect with our inner wisdom, our sage, and we want to activate our ability to make a different choice. So they've done a lot of research on this, which I think is really interesting. And it turns out that these 10 saboteurs that we talked about, so the judge and then the accomplices, they live in the brainstem, the limbic system, and parts of the left brain. And then there are 5 sage powers that they've identified, which are in the middle prefrontal cortex, the empathy circuitry of the brain. So there's neural pathways that enable us to feel empathy for others. That's a specific set of neural pathways. So that's the empathy circuitry. That's where these sage powers are, and parts of the right brain. And so the 10 saboteurs are motivating us through negative emotions, and the sage powers are motivating us through positive emotions. So fear, stress, anger, guilt, shame, insecurity, they will get us to do things. But will they get us to do things to the best of our ability? Is it the most sustainable way of doing things? And then if we tap into our sage powers, now we're tapping into our empathy, our curiosity, our creativity, our passion, and our purpose. And that's where our inner superhéroe is. That's how we can tap into their powers. So the 10 saboteurs might generate some success for us, but it's not optimal and it's not sustainable. The sage powers are going to generate our highest success and sustain happiness. And it is a more, I think, a more effective way to navigate the challenges that we face, and a more joyful way to do so. And joy can be an act of resistance. So it's really important to fuel ourselves with that so that we can continue la lucha. So there is an assessment available to determine which of the saboteurs are most active for you at any given time. You've already had some ideas that you shared about which are most active for you. These are a way that it's about 5-7 minute assessment. It's a way to figure out kind of what's most present for you at this moment in time. And that can be helpful, just identifying them for the interception part of it. We can intercept inner, that inner saboteur by identifying it. They have a name, they have a role. Now I have more power over them. And then you get a little bit more context about how it works, some of its characteristics, and some of the thoughts that it'll say. So it sounds like, I know the right way to do this. I hate mistakes. If you can't do it perfectly, just don't do it at all. That inner voice that stops and stifles the magic of our inner superhero, you can get a little bit more insight about them there. So if you would like to take the saboteur assessment, it is my gift to you. It is free. You can scan the QR code. It'll ask you some questions about this particular talk, which I would love your feedback on. And I'll be able to share the link with you so that you can fill out the assessment and get a little bit more insight on what might be showing up for you right now, and what are some things that could be done to better manage it. We all live with our inner saboteurs the same way we all live with our inner superhéroe. And so the more equipped we are to be able to tap into the inner superhéroe and to intercept and mitigate that saboteur or that supervillain, the better our probabilities of showing up for ourselves, being able to grow, being able to learn, being able to find solutions when there seem like there are none. That's really, really critical. So I really invite you to do that. Give that some time and consideration. And yeah, is it possible to shift from saboteur to sage even in tough challenges? It is. And the speed and the depth of the way that we're able to make that shift relies on that brain gym we were talking about, training those mental muscles. So putting in those mental repetitions to shift our state into a state that better serves us. The more we practice at it, the more able we are to actually do it, especially in a moment of need. So if I were to show up at a marathon tomorrow without having done any training at all, how far do you think I'd get? Oh, and thank you, Oscar. I'm so glad you enjoyed the session. For a marathon, I would not get very far before I would need medical attention. So if I show up in the moment of need and I haven't done my training, it's a lot harder to be able to pull out that inner superhéroe, tap into those superpowers, that inner wisdom, and see what my options even are to navigate it. So yes, it is a training protocol. So if you're into superheroes, X-Men Academy is waiting for you so that you can train. And that mental training builds that capacity to respond to life's challenges with positive rather than negative mindset. And the impact can be better performance, greater peace of mind and wellness, and healthier relationships because somos uno. We are one, wearing a lot of hats, inhabiting a lot of different roles, facing a lot of different challenges. It's still me. So the more I'm able to develop these skills, the better I'm able to navigate whatever comes my way in whatever space I'm in. And that lasting positive change, the insight is 20% of it. The mental muscle that you develop is 80% of it. So that's really, really important. So finding those spaces like you were sharing, what works for you to help you get grounded and tap into your best self, that's really important to do it as a training regimen. You wouldn't expect to be able to run the marathon without training. You wouldn't expect to be able to navigate chaos and uncertainty to the best of your ability without training. And you can. And it's important. And it's the first thing that we put on the back burner when we're feeling overwhelmed. So I invite you to tap into your inner superhéroe, whoever they may be. Remember that they're always there for you. They might be having a hard time showing up, and that's okay. But I really invite you to work on developing those solutions to help them find their way, because that is the most critical inner resource you can possibly have. And we need you. We need you to be at your best right now to navigate what we're navigating. So in our journey today, we reconnected with your inner superhéroe, identified your inner supervillains or inner saboteurs, and discovered 3 core mental muscles needed to thrive in challenging situations and maintain our peak performance. And I love, Oscar, that fate brought you here. You accidentally joined the session. I'm so glad. Thank you for being so engaged and so thoughtful with your answers. It's enriched the conversation so much. I really appreciate it. And I love that you feel like your brain got a massage. I love that. It is one of my joys to be able to do that. So thank you. So yeah, your superhero journey continues. I would invite you to share one action that you would commit to in the chat. What is one small action you can take to better navigate those inner saboteurs, better revive or strengthen your inner superhéroe? So I'd love it if you would share that in the chat. And I'm going to go ahead and share the link with you again in case you're interested in doing the assessment. And I would love, love, love if, whether or not you're interested in the assessment, if you would share some feedback with me on this particular talk, that would be amazing, because I'd love to continue to learn and grow. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you all. I love that. I love the brain massage. Let's say, Oscar, share what I learned here with my husband because teaching others reinforces my learnings. Yes, absolutely. I love that. I love that you want to share it. Thank you, Oscar. Anyone else want to share one action that you'd like to take to move forward with this, with whatever you took away with this session today. More meditation and breath work. Yes, Anais. Yes, yes, yes. So important. Tomas, thank you so much for the presentation and being, oh, thank you, Tomas. One thing I can do is to continue educating others in these spaces, some of the struggles we go through and how they can help these communities. Yes, that's huge. Thank you. Guadalupe, allowing the sage powers to be my driving force. Got to do the reframing. Yes, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Ingrid, the talk was awesome. I would step back and write my achievements and look back at it to not self doubt and also breathing more. Yes, that's wonderful. Adrian, there's an inner superhero in all of us, regardless of how small or big we think they may be. Yes, I love that. Maya, thank you. I will incorporate yoga with my daily walks. Yes, thank you. Absolutely. I love that. Yeah. Thank you, Maya. Thank you, everybody. I love that. The more that you pour into yourself to build up those mental and emotional resources, the more fully we can show up to do the work that we need to do as individuals and as a community. And I'm so grateful to you for taking the time to be here, fully engage in the conversation, and share your insights and your wisdom.